Class, are you ready for another video? Here we are on practice 7C, assigning map scales. So we're going to start with task 1, positioning and scale the brick maps. So open up your starter file, MyInteriorMapping.max, and if you've completed the terrain mapping practices, the units should already be on metric, but if the unit scale mismatch opens, click OK to accept the defaults and adopt the file units. So that should be okay, but you can confirm too by going to your unit setup and make sure that US Standard or Imperial is selected. Now, by Layer Explorer, we want to make sure that it wants us to hit the Display None and then Display Geometry. We just want to display geometry. And select Layer Vis1 Walls. Here. And double click it. It will select all the walls in the lower floor of the viewport. In the main toolbar, we're going to go to Slate Editor again. And in the scene materials down at the bottom, let's do that. Scene materials here. Double click on the wall multi to bring it into your view 1 and locate the masonry material. That is this one on the bottom. And it is inputted into 5 of our wall multi material here. Note that this material has bitmaps wired to the diffuse and bump channels over here. Step 5 now says verify the layer Vis1 walls is still active, which you can see it here, it's still active. And in view 1 sheet, select the masonry architect material here and click assign material to selection. Again, that's this button right here. And then click show shaded materials since mine is currently not highlighted. Why is that not highlighting? There. It had to be active. And I hadn't selected this, so I don't think it actually went to the object. Vis1. Okay, it's there. It's probably not going to show it right away. The brick material is assigned to the walls, but it does not display. Minimize the slate material editor. And with the Vis1 wall still selected, we're going to go to the Modify panel. Select Map Scaler from the modifier list. And in the parameters rollout, set the scale value to 1 system unit, or 1 inch. So the map scale, instead of 8'4", is going to be 1 inch. There you saw how it scaled the brick down to the proper size. Note that the bricks become visible. If the brick texture is not visible, click on the viewport shading label and shade it, and make sure it says shaded materials with maps. So now in the perspective viewport, which is what we're in now, zoom in to obtain the required orientation on one of the brick walls. Well, I'm there right now and I'm happy with where I'm sitting at. Now maximize the slate material editor again. Maybe I'll bring that a little bit over so we can see it like there. And double click on the masonry bitmap wired to the masonry materials diffuse map. So double click on this one. And on this coordinates rollout, what we're going to do is set the width to 4'7" and the height to 5'4". If you remember, the reason is they talked about early on is it was how it worked with the courses of the bricks. So they showed that if the brick was 8 inches wide or 10 inches at the very beginning of the chapter, yeah, on page 7-15, that 11 inches times 5 in the U direction equals 4'7", and 4 inches times 16 in the V direction is 5'4". So in this case, U direction would be the same as X, and the V direction is the same as the Y. So let's change these to be 4'7" and 5'4". There, it changed the brick course sizing to match what real world sizes would be. We're all about trying to be as accurate as possible, and 3ds Max does provide us with some tools to become accurate. Now, step 9 says for images in a material to be aligned, all other mapping coordinates should also match. So now add the Slate Material Editor, double click on the title bar heading for the masonry unit, and for the masonry unit bitmap, sorry, this. And this needs to be the same. Because if your bump is not the same as the brick, it won't show up properly. 4'7", tab, 5'4", enter. Now task 2, what we're going to do is assign the ceiling material. So change your current view to the camera lobby camera by selecting the perspective, cameras, lobby. We're in our lobby again. And now change the shading viewport, user defined, to high quality. High quality. To use the material from the Autodesk material library, we have to change the renderer to Art Renderer in the main toolbar. So click our render options or render setup and change this from Scanline Renderer to Art Renderer. That will help us. It'll populate now when we bring the Slate Material Editor back to include the Autodesk material library. So bring back the Slate Editor. There's our Autodesk material library here. Now, it does give you a render message. It says here, it says that certain scanline architectural materials are not supported by the art. That's all of these. So that is okay. It says right here that the renderer will be changed to use art render supported materials. Click close to accept those changes. In the Slate Material Editor now, right click on the View 1 label and select Create New View. Create New View. We're going to call this, we can leave it, just say OK. Now View 2 is the active sheet. Expand the Autodesk material library here, and we are going to select miscellaneous category and double click on the acoustic tile 2x2 white pebbled. That material is now active in the View 2. And in the viewport, select the ceiling object and note that the layer Vis1 ceiling displays in the command panel. Okay, it should say layer Vis1 ceiling over here. And now we're going to apply a map scalar modifier again. So select the modifier list, come down and get your map scalar again. When the parameters roll out, we're going to set the scale to 1 inch instead of 8'4". Now in the Slate Material Editor in the View 2 sheet, select Miscellaneous Material by clicking on its title bar. And we're going to assign material to selection. There we see our 2x2 acoustic tile. It's white and gray in the viewport, but when we render it, it will be normal. Let's see, it's already there. It showed gray there, but it said to make sure that you show shaded material in viewport. Now, step number 10, it says you can reposition the ceiling texture through the offset fields in the map scale modifier. In the command panel, in the parameters rollout, change the U and V offset spinner arrows to observe the change in the viewport. So what it's just saying is, oh, click on my arrows, it's not working. But if I just change that to 1 foot, it just shifts it by a foot. If I change this by 6 inches, it shifts it by 6 inches one direction or the other. I'm going to bring those back to 0 as they were. And that is all we have to do for this project. So save your file and turn it in.